Hello, my name is Dr. Johnson Iyilade, and in today's Glomacs Tech Talk, I'll be talking on data ethics. Data ethics, because data is an important asset that organizations have, and data is about people and maybe services that organizations are rendering to people. So data are some confidential information, and there must be some ethical consideration, because even though data add value to organization, and it can bring a lot of value to organization in decision making and helping them to actually serve their customer better. So it can have a lot of positive impact, but it can also bring potential for unintended harm if the data is not used in an ethical manner. So in this video, I will talk about how organizations can ethically collect, store, and use customers' data. So what rights must they even uphold? So what is data ethics? Let's define what data ethics is. So data ethics encompasses an organization's moral obligation of gathering, protecting, and using personal identifiable information and making sure that they are using it in a correct way without making it to affect the individuals that share those information with them. Because data is an asset. Data is important. So organization must have some ethical structure that ensure that the people that are sharing the data, they can trust them with the data. So data ethics is very, very key in the process of using data for analysis. So it asks the question, is this the right thing to do on this data? So that's one of the things that data ethics is looking for. Or can we do better than the way that we are doing things now? Because data is an important asset, and you don't want your organization to have a bad reputation by using the data in an unethical way that is actually putting your customers or services in danger. So anyone who handles data, especially data analysts, data scientists, machine learning engineers, data engineers, IT professionals, AI specialists, they must understand some basics of data ethics, and they must be well versed in its basic principles to know what they can do with the data and what they cannot do with the data. So they must follow some ethical standards that the organization has to ensure that the data is being used for the right purpose and they are not misusing it in a way that is putting the customers in danger. So in doing so, you are protecting the customer's safety and saving your organization's reputation from even legal issues that can come in if you misuse the data. So here are some 6 principles that I want to share today of data ethics that organizations can follow when using data, especially for analysis or for building machine learning models. Some principles of data ethics that organizations can follow. Number 1 is data ownership and rights. Data ownership and rights. So the first ethical principle is data ownership and rights. So the first principle is that even though they share the data with the organization, you must know that an individual still has ownership over their own personal information. The individual still have ownership over their own data. So it is unlawful and unethical to collect somebody's personal data or confidential data without their consent. It is unethical. So if you want to collect some sensitive personal information, then you must ask for consent from the individual. So never assume that the customer is okay with sharing personal and confidential data with you. So you must ask for their permission to avoid breaking some ethical and legal issues. Okay, So you must respect that the person still owns the data. So if you want to use the data, you need to get their consent. Okay, you want to get their consent first. So you must have that sense of ownership, that the person still owns the data, but you can get their consent to say they should give you the right to use that data and within the boundary of the legal permissions or agreement that you have with them. Number two thing is data transparency. Data transparency. Okay, so in addition to the fact that everybody owns their own personal information, they also have the right to know what you are going to use their data for. Okay, when you collect, when you are storing, when you are using the data, okay, what are you going to be using it for? So you have to be a little bit transparent, because that will make you people to trust you with their data, to know that, yes, I mean, this is what the organization is using the data for. So you can write a kind of policy that explains that when you are filling a form, especially maybe you are on a website, you are filling a form, they will put it there that there are cookies, okay, used on this website to track maybe your location or other information. So, and the person can say yes to it or no, accept the cookie or reject it. So that is transparency. But if people are not giving that transparency, then they won't trust you with their data. So it is very important that you also imbibe the ethical standard of data transparency. So if users right to, if a user right to have access to this information, so they can decide to accept your site cookie or decline it. So make sure that you communicate in a transparent way on what you are going to do with the data to your potential customer. That's another ethical standard to follow. The third standard is data privacy and security, because data is an important asset. There are people who are trying to hack. There are people who are trying to get those information. So make sure that you protect the data of the customer, because what the customer is sharing with you is personally identifiable information, PII, personally identifiable information, and that makes them vulnerable if you are giving it to third parties. If you are making it not secure and safe, anybody can hack into it, and then the customer becomes vulnerable to attack. So it is very important that you protect the customer's data, and the personal information they share with you can be their full name, it can be their birth date, it can be their street address, it can be their phone number, it can be their social security number, it can be their credit card information or bank account number or passport number. These are confidential information, personal identifiable information that you don't want to share with anybody or make accessible to somebody that is trying to hack into your system. So data privacy and security is very important. So to protect individuals' privacy, ensure that you are storing your company's data in a secure database, okay, so that it doesn't end up in the wrong hands. Make sure that there is security protection in that data. And as data becomes assets, cybersecurity is increasing as well. So security protection is very, very key to ensure that the customer's data is safe and customer can trust you with their data. So implementing robust security measures to protect the data from unauthorized access. It's very important, very, very important aspects of data ethics. So data privacy and security is the third ethics that must be followed. Number 4 ethics is data quality and integrity. So ensuring that the data that you are collecting is actually accurate, complete, and reliable is very important. So when you are working in organizations, if you put garbage in, then it is garbage that will come out. If you are collecting data, if you are storing data, make sure that the data is of good quality and it has integrity. That is, it's very correct. There is no a lot of misinformation and error in there, because it will affect your analysis, it will affect your model building, it will affect everything that you want to do with the data. If you put garbage in, it is garbage that will come out. So another data integrity is to ensure high quality and integrity of your data. So number 5 is data bias. Data bias. So you have to be mindful of potential biases in data when you are collecting the data, processing the data, or interpreting that may lead to unfair or discriminatory outcomes. So be conscious of the fact that there are some information that you collect that can be biased towards some people and not the other. So be conscious of that bias when you are dealing with the ethical standards you are setting for data. Okay, number 6, which is the last one, is data compliance. So data compliance is the process of ensuring that organizations and their systems meet legal, regulatory, and operational data requirements in that industry. So in every industry, there are some legal requirements, there are some standard or regulatory bodies that monitors what you can do with the data. So let's say for a banking, there is a regulatory requirement. In the healthcare industry, there is a regulatory, there is something that they already set as standard of what you can do with the data, what you cannot do with the data. So compliance is ensuring that you actually obey and follow the legal and regulatory requirement. If you don't follow it, then it will have legal consequences. They can take you to court and you'll pay a lot of fine for breaking that compliance rule. So every organization must ensure that they follow this standard if they really want to follow a good data ethics. So the first one that I talk about is data ownership and rights. So your customer is the one that owns the data, not you. So make sure that you put that at the back of your mind. Then data transparency, that is, be very transparent in what you are collecting and what you want to do with it, so that customers can give you their consent and say, yes, I agree to what you are trying to do with it. Then data privacy and security. Make sure that you set up a system to protect and secure the data that people are sharing with you, because it's an asset that you don't want people to be vulnerable on. Then data quality and integrity. Ensure that you protect and make sure that the data that you have is of high quality and it has a lot of integrity. Then number 5 is data bias. That is, there are some bias information in the data. Be conscious of that when you are doing your analysis and interpretation of the data. Then number 6 is data compliance, ensuring that you are complying with the industry standard for different industry that you are in, whether it's healthcare, whether it's bank, whether it's other industries. What is their regulatory requirement? You must meet those things, otherwise you'll be punished for not following that regulatory requirement. I hope this tip help you. If it helps you, you can share it with others. So I look forward to sharing more in our next video.